don't see anyone else in the waiting room right now. So maybe we can start.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I am unfamiliar. I've not met Eric Bowling in person, but we've talked on the phone because there he is. And I don't think we've met have we met before, Eric? I don't recall doing so, but I certainly recall dealing with you back in 2020 when you were running the presidential petition drive.
No, I don't think we've ever met in person. Although I think when you were in the Virginia SEC, I think I did go to a meeting in Richmond one time where you were there. But other than that, I don't know that we've ever
Okay.
met.
All right. And I see James St. John. Hello, James. I know James St. John from Hampton Roads, but I don't know Aaron Ben Munford or Bob Hirsch. But regardless, I'm glad you're all here. I am the National Ballot Access Coordinator for the Libertarian Party, and I got involved in this. Actually, it's going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the 36th anniversary of the first time I ever went out and petitioned in public. And it was a Saturday, the first Saturday of March 1988. And I went to the main post office in Arlington, Virginia. And I went there for 3 hours and I got 57 signatures in 3 hours. First time. And I thought, well, okay, I averaged 19 an hour. That's not too shabby. Then 3 days later was Super Tuesday. There was a Super Tuesday. In fact, I think it was the first Super Tuesday ever, was March 8, 1988. And I petitioned with Carol Thies. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what her last name. She was married at the time to Cliff Thies, who's a economics professor at Shenandoah University in Winchester. And she is the mother of Ben Vanderjack, who is a libertarian. I don't know if he's still involved in the LP or not, but in Winchester or Stevens City or someplace there. But wow, that's going to be March 8, 12 plus 24 is 36. Amazing. 36 years. Trivia question. Who won the Democratic Party? Who won the Democratic Party presidential primary on that Super Tuesday in 1988? You really know your history if you come up with this one.
Was that Walter Mondale?
Nope. 1988, the winner of the Democratic primary in Virginia was none other than Jesse.
Was it?
Jesse. I'm sorry.
Uh,
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say Michael Dukakis, but I'm wrong.
No, it was Jesse Jackson. If I shame on me if I recall that incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. But in any event, I just wanted to talk about give you some tips regarding going out and petitioning. Of course, tomorrow is Super Tuesday. If you can go out to a polling place, go to as big a polling place as possible. If you don't know which is the biggest, make your best judgment or just go to your own polling place. The polls are open. I suppose the hours have not changed. I moved out of Virginia in 2019. I presume it's still 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. But I would say take a couple of clipboards. I think it is better to use the legal size. Some people, a lot of people don't have legal size paper at home. So if you're printing off a printer at home, the petition, maybe you've got to go with the letter. But if you can go with legal, okay, here comes Julie's cat. All right, there, you can see the cat. There's the cat's tail anyway, and she doesn't understand when I'm doing a Zoom call. This is Little Bug is her nickname. Miranda is her given name. But in any event, but it's going to be easier. You're going to have fewer circulator statements to fill out and fewer notarizations that you're going to have to get. If you use the legal size petition and of course use it with a legal size clipboard. You want to use of course blue or black pens only, no red, no green, nothing like that. This is a government document. It's got to look official, got to look good. And what is the number of feet you're supposed to stand from? Is it 50 feet or 30 feet or I forget what it is. It's less than 100 feet in Virginia that you're supposed to stand away from the door to the polling place, because you're not allowed to electioneer. And I forget what that number is in Virginia,
I
actually.
I
Pardon?
don't remember either, but you can tell by where they stop putting signs.
Okay. All right. So there you go. So if there's a sign there that's been put in the ground, you can get that close.
It's 40 feet, but you
40?
can go outside as long as you leave your stuff outside. And in my experience, that you actually ask them, they'll come out and tell you or show you.
Okay, yeah. I mean, they'll come out and give you a warning or something. I would say that, of course, you've got the petitions, you've got a clipboard. If you've have a legal size clipboard, they're the best kind because you can use letter or legal size on a legal size clipboard. There's nothing more pathetic than seeing somebody with a letter size clipboard and a legal size petition. That doesn't work. And so I would say, I mean, there are some people who say, oh, you got to carry a bunch of clipboards, but really, it is very rare that I have a need for more than 2 clipboards. I think 99% of the time, 2 clipboards to carry are good enough. I would say that, particularly outside polling places, I know Bob Lynch, a lot of petitioners like to set up a table when they petition. I strongly urge not doing that, particularly outside a polling place. Usually you need to approach people. You need to walk toward people and get them to sign. If you're stationary at if you are stationary at one place outside and people are coming from all different directions, whatever, your production is not going to be nearly as good as if you are ambulatory and walking toward people and asking them, would you sign this petition, please? I want to emphasize that whatever works for you, as long as you're not misrepresenting the petition, you're not lying, you're not exaggerating or anything, whatever works for you, what your pitch is good. And I have been criticized for at times being a little too wordy. Don't get up there. Come on. No, I'm going to put you down. Being a little, but here's my pitch. All right. But whatever works for you. I say, excuse me, sir or ma'am, could you sign a petition to allow the Libertarian Party presidential ticket to return to the ballot in Virginia this year? It's not an endorsement. It's not saying you'll vote for us, but we need the signatures of 5,000 registered voters in the state just to get on the ballot and give people a choice. Could you sign our petition, please? And so what I do there, people say, oh, Bill, you're giving too much information. It has worked for me. Now I talk pretty fast. I never wear sunglasses. When I go out and petition, I never wear sunglasses, no matter how bright it is, because this is a sales job. All right. And I don't try to convert people. I don't get into long conversations with people. Don't get drawn into conversations and people start walking by and you're missing signatures. And I just say, excuse me, I'd love to talk with you more, but I'm here to get signatures today. And I've got to do that. And I apologize. But I don't get drawn into long philosophical conversations with people. But again, I try to be sort of deferential. That is, again, excuse me, could you sign a petition to allow the Libertarian Party presidential ticket to return? We've been on the ballot before, to return to the ballot. So this is nothing new, to return to the ballot in Virginia. All right. And it's not an endorsement. It's not saying you'll vote for us. That is important to people but this is just to get you on the ballot. Yes, this is just to get us on the ballot. It is nothing more. And I believe it says so right on the petition. Fortunately, Virginia is very clear about that. And I think it used to, and I didn't check this year, but I think it says on there point blank that you can sign, a given signer can sign for more than one candidate. And that's very good, because in some states, that's not the case. People can only sign one petition, and if they sign more than one, then there are certain tiebreakers in the law. Here in Illinois, you're only allowed to sign one petition, and And it goes, if people sign more than one petition, it goes to the person who gets their signatures notarized first, because there's not in the Illinois petition, there is not a date. There is not a date on the petition, date of signature, but at the bottom, when you get it notarized, the date of the notarization is put on there by the notary. So just trivia about Illinois ballot access law, which is truly horrible. I got to tell you, it's much, but the only saving grace with Illinois ballot access law is you can put all your statewide candidates on one petition. All right, but that is the only thing. Other than that, Virginia, there's no party petition in either state. There are candidate petitions only in Illinois and Virginia. And otherwise, Virginia ballot access law is far more lenient, far more liberal than the horrible ballot access laws in this state. And be prepared to ask, people will ask questions. I mean, it's not like it was back in the day. I mean, 36 years ago or 30 years ago or something. I mean, the ignorance it all depends on sort of on the socioeconomic area. I still run into situations like in Arkansas. I went down and petitioned in Arkansas last April, and I went to Hot Springs. I did most of my petitioning in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and it's sort of a backwater area. Hopefully nobody from Arkansas is watching this, but kind of a backwater area in Arkansas. And I ran across a lot of people who did not know what libertarian meant. In Northern Virginia, you're not going to run into that much. People will know, but you still run into it every once in a while. And my response is, and be prepared for a short, I mean, here's what I say. I would say, well, the Libertarian Party, it stands for libertarianism, which is usually taking conservative positions on economic issues, generally liberal positions on social issues. But there is a core theme, and that is we think people should be able to live their lives as they choose without interference, as long as they are not harming other people or their property. Consequently, we call for reduced taxes, reduced government spending, and real respect for people's civil liberties. And I try to fit it into about 30 seconds. And I know that sounds kind of, a view from 35,000 feet, but I get a reaction, like, oh, that sounds good. I'll sign that petition, or who'd be against that? So I don't go into a lot of policy details. I keep it big picture when people ask what libertarian is. I would say that but know the rules, 5,000, how many signatures do you need? We need 5,000 valid signatures and at least 200 from each of the 11 congressional districts in Virginia. I would urge people, and I really don't have any empirical evidence on this, I would urge people to sort of dress normally, so to speak. I don't recommend going out and with a political t-shirt on and wearing a bunch of buttons and stuff. Again, I don't have any empirical evidence on this, but I think that could be a turnoff to people who are signing just to get you on the ballot. So when I go out, I don't wear any political buttons. I try to, I wear jeans, wear a collared shirt. I don't wear a t-shirt. I look, pretty, I just say dress normally, so to speak, out there and decently. And I think that will help your signature production. Know the circumstances as well. Why aren't you on the ballot? I mean, that's one thing you may run across. People say, well, I thought you were on the ballot. Well, they're thinking about the last election. All right. And well, you're not on the ballot. And the reason we weren't on the ballot is that we did not get 10% of the vote for a statewide office in either of the last two statewide elections. Therefore, the Commonwealth of Virginia kicked us off the ballot, and we have to petition to get back on the ballot. And so people will bring that up. Now, this is something that people need to do. I think it's important to ask people, report the number of signatures you possess. How many signatures do you possess? It's very important. And I think it's important to have a person who's sort of heading this up, so to speak. That is, of course, you can have, subordinates like Paul's up in Northern Virginia is my understanding. Jennifer, you live in Newport News. And Eric, you live down in southwestern Virginia, is that correct?
Yes, Martinsville.
Oh, Martinsville. Okay. So you got people all over the state, but information should flow. The information should flow to one person, really, who's keeping track of how many signatures are out there. And then people need to turn their signatures in to someone, get them to that person who is ultimately the depot for the signatures. Because I have to tell you, I mean, we need to know how many signatures are out there, but unfortunately, this is unfortunately the case, but sometimes people misrepresent the number of signatures or they miscount them, even though counting isn't that difficult. But I've run into many situations over the years where people, here's what happens. They're kind of embarrassed by the number of signatures, the low number of signatures they have gathered. And so they report a higher number of signatures, thinking, well, I'll get out there and make up the difference. All right, I will get these signatures, and then they don't get the signatures. And so, well, yeah, I know I said I had X signatures, but it's only Y, far less, and I'm sorry about that. And you want to avoid surprises, particularly in August in this petition drive. So, I just it's important for everybody to emphasize, report to someone the number of signatures, and then get your signatures. You can mail them. I generally have not had a problem with signatures getting lost in the mail, although I will, at least if the U.S. Postal Service, it's got to be better than it is in Chicago. I got to tell you, the performance of the USPS in the Chicago metro area, particularly the city of Chicago, absolutely sucks. And it's just out. I don't know if Chicago is responsible or not. Evan McMahon, who's chairman of the Indiana Party, in 2022, was it, or 2023? I forget which. I think it was in 2022. I mailed him a first-class envelope from suburban Chicago that took 19 days to get to him in Indianapolis. And he told me he lives in the city of Indianapolis, and he told me that on average, his mail service had deteriorated to the point where he got mailed twice a week. So anyway, but generally I've had good luck. I don't recall any instance of signatures completely getting lost. If there's no time crunch to get the signatures, it should be okay for people just to mail them to somewhere. But it's but if there is a time crunch, you really got to think about it, because the USPS can let you down if you got a time crunch going on. Now I would also say that regarding petitioning, only go door to door if you have to. I think if you're petitioning for House of Delegates in Northern Virginia and you've got a highly gerrymandered House of Delegates district, then I think there's no alternative but to go door to door to get signatures, because your out of district problem is just going to be horrible if you don't go door to door. If you stand out in public in Arlington or Alexandria or somewhere, and of course, what percentage of people know what House of Delegates district they're in. So in that sort of situation, you got to go door to door. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they like to have you. My understanding is this: they like to have you separate signatures by county, and of course, congressional district matters to us because we got to have a minimum of 200 in each of the 11 CDs. It is my understanding that if a signature goes on the wrong sheet, it still is counted as valid. So it does not disqualify signatures if somebody signs the wrong sheet. And whoever's keeping track of signatures should obviously try to do it by congressional district. And because obviously that is important there.
The last redistricting did make things a lot more districts are like on county lines and that sort of thing. So
great.
It is a little bit better than it was before.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I don't know if you've thought about a validation process. I'm not sure how that could be done, whether it's regarding Carla's question, do I have a list of petitioning locate? Now, I don't have on primary day. I do not have a list. In the past, I have researched that. I have not researched that for Virginia. So I would just urge people to make their best judgment or go to their polling place tomorrow. I can't help you tomorrow. In terms of where to go generally, I mean, I would say that anywhere where there's good foot traffic. Now, I don't know if giant supermarkets still allow petitioning in Northern Virginia and Fredericksburg, but they used to. Now, I haven't petitioned in Virginia since 2018, but I think you should try to see if you can petition at giant supermarkets. And I would not go to corporate on that. I always went to the individual stores, and they have a calendar, and maybe they've changed their policy. Hopefully they've not, because it's really rare to get a petition, a permission to petition on private property. But the Cascades Giant in Sterling, Cascades Giant was a great place to petition. And there's a giant food store that was a good place to petition. Oh, I want to say you go from the Beltway, you go west on Little River Turnpike, and then there's a street that runs off at an angle, and there's a giant there that used to be a good place to petition, and a library down there. I want to say the Kings Park branch of Fairfax County Libraries. That was a good place. You had to get permission ahead of time, but that was a good place to petition. Of course, in front of any post office. Now, if there's a public sidewalk in front of that post office, you can petition. If it's a suburban type situation where you have to drive in off the street and you park in a parking lot and walk up, no, unfortunately. I used to go there in 1988 when I started petitioning. I used to go to suburban type petitioning situations like that, and they let me petition. But then the Board of Trustees of the USPS, God bless them, cracked down on that, and it's been litigated, and the decision was that it is not a public forum unless it's on a public sidewalk. I used to have I don't at the moment, but I sometimes in the past, I used to go to Google Street View and analyze post offices where people could petition, and that's what I would do there right now. I don't have my list of Virginia post offices at my fingertips. DMV, getting approval ahead of time, that is a good thing. Not DMVs in some other states won't allow it. Virginia will if you get permission ahead of time. The one downside to DMVs that I came across in Northern Virginia was a lot of foreigners or a lot of non-citizens at DMVs, and so they're not going to be able to sign the petition. Libraries have been good, and in front of I petitioned when I went to Alabama. I did a week of volunteer petitioning for the Alabama LP in January 2022, and I petitioned in front of the Tuscaloosa County Courthouse in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And that was a good spot, in petitioning in front of post offices. I would say you could, like Old Town on a Saturday or Sunday, something like that, where there's good foot traffic on the weekend. I went down and petitioned in Fredericksburg. I remember doing that probably 2016, probably not since 2016, but maybe I did it in 2018. But anyway, there's Caroline Street in Fredericksburg, which was you get a number of out-of-towners there, people who are in visiting, it was surprising the number of people who claimed they were from out of state, but still a lot of Virginians, a friendly crowd. I recommend Caroline Street in Fredericksburg as a place to go petition. Let's see here. What else do I have to say?
Speaking of out of state, when we're talking Alexandria, are you running into that problem a lot? Because I mean, like Maryland, DC are right there.
Yeah, you're
people.
going to run into it. I come to think of it, I'm not sure that I ever petitioned I petitioned in front of a post office in Alexandria. They had at least one post office that had the public sidewalk in front, and I petitioned there. I'm not sure I ever went over to Old Town Alexandria and worked that on the street. I'm not sure I ever did that. The library in Arlington. Yes, I petitioned at the Arlington Library. I have petitioned at the Arlington Library. That is a good spot.
It might be an unavoidable problem. That entire district is right up against other states. There's just no
Yeah.
way around it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And our schools and they're not close. Would it be strange to be? No. Be strange standing outside. No, that's not going to be a problem. If they come, the people are going to be working the polls tomorrow. You won't be the only stranger standing outside the school tomorrow. There will be people who are working. You'll be there. If somebody comes up, hey, what are you doing? Hey, I'm here petitioning. I got a clipboard here. And let me just see here. Yeah, pick the best location, look at past primary precinct turnouts. Paul's got a list of polling places in Fairfax County. So anyway, but primary day, and by the way, people, even though people are there to not to do something other than vote in a libertarian primary, and there's never been a libertarian primary ever in Virginia, as far as I know, people are ready to sign. I mean, that question has come up in the past. Well, or people who are voting in primaries for other parties, and maybe they won't be willing to sign. My experience is that they are willing to sign, and sometimes very enthusiastically. By the way, going back to door-to-door petitioning, there are a lot more people today than 30 years ago who have no soliciting signs on their front door. It's up to you what you want to do, but I spoke about this with a friend in Illinois, and I said, what happens when you're petitioning door to door and you come up to a no soliciting sign? He says, oh, I ignore it. And he goes ahead and knocks on the door anyway. And he's gotten a lot of signatures there. Those no soliciting signs, unless expressly, and I remember coming across one no soliciting sign that no petitions, no nothing. So I didn't ring that doorbell. But I have a friend here in Illinois who says that he's had good success at doors with no soliciting signs on them. Let me just see here whether there's anything else I'm trying to see here. Oh, I would seriously recommend, I've said it before, getting pledges from volunteers. I really do think it is a good thing to get people to lay down a marker and to say, I will go get X signatures. Now, some of the people aren't going to live up, and you got to evaluate them. And if somebody says, I'll go do 2,500 volunteer signatures, I mean, that has to be realistically, and particularly if somebody has no experience, you got to look at it and make sure, okay, is that a credible pledge? But we need to get credible and solid pledges from people who say, I will go do X signatures. Not that I'll try to go do, I will go do X signatures. Want to tell you a little story regarding, for people who, they say, well, I'm new at this, or, it's important that people not write themselves excuses, sort of like doctor's excuses for not petitioning. I'll tell you a story about Cindy Buckman. Who is Cindy Buckman? She is the wife of Joe Buckman, who's a Utah libertarian who ran, here comes Little Bug again, who ran not as a libertarian, but as an independent in a special election last November 21 in the 2nd Congressional District in Utah. And he had a very short window to get his signatures, just a few days. It was kind of ridiculous. And so I got online and I found a good post office, looking at Google Street View, and I suggested that he go there. And then anyway, they found this other place to go petition, a recreation center, another place, any sort of government building, recreation center, something like that. and let me know, by the way, if you're being denied permission to petition on government property, that may stand up. Ultimately, it may not stand up. This whole, what's a public forum? That law is a little dicey. It's not clear. But please let me know if you're not getting permission to petition on public property. Oh, Cindy Buckman, yes. So she stood outside somewhere in Utah. She had never petitioned before. She worked as a lab tech in a hospital, and she really wasn't, didn't think of herself as an outgoing person. She was petitioning for her husband to get on the ballot for U.S. House. She went out, never petitioned before, went out and got 300 signatures in 3 days. 300 signatures. Now, she did it all day. Went out there, put her all into it for 3 days. She got 300 signatures in 3 days, and she had never petitioned before in her life. So it's really, believe me, I'm not going to excuse the politicians in this nation who pass horribly restrictive ballot access laws. It's a lot harder to get on the ballot in most states in this nation than it should be in a nation that holds itself out to be a beacon of democracy for the rest of the world. What a bunch of bunk that is. But it shouldn't be as hard as it is. But ultimately, petitioning isn't all that difficult. I mean, it's sort of like jumping into a swimming pool. I mean, at first it feels cold, but then the water sort of warms up. I think petitioning's a lot that way. Actually getting out there, and actually starting petitioning, the water then gets warm and it's not so bad. Another good place for people in Northern Virginia or nearby, the Warrenton Post Office. I used to go out to the Warrenton Post Office. That was a really good place to petition. It's a post office on a street, an old style post office in Warrenton. That's a good place to petition. Let's see what else. So let me just think here. Turn your SIGs in. Validate signatures if you can. I don't know if there's any plan to do that, but and whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything more offhand, but does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. So the affidavit on the back of the forms, you certainly couldn't do this with the signature, but for everything else, could you would you have any issue pre-filling that?
No, I think that's a good idea. I believe that you could fill. The only thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only thing you need to do is sign it, put your signature on there in front of a notary. And I see James St. John nodding. So if you want to fill it out, and you know what, that is believe me, if you got a lot of petitions, that is a godsend to fill that out. I've definitely cramped up with my hand because I didn't do that. And I think that's a tremendous idea.
Well, my thought was actually to basically create your own like custom to you form and just plug those into the PDF.
Yeah.
Like you would print it with that info. I mean, I guess here's the last 4 digits of my social security number too, everybody who's signing, but whatever. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that's I think that's a good idea. Obviously, you got to put your signature in front of a notary, and maybe the date you sign. I'm not sure exactly all the information that the affidavit wants.
No, I don't see there's date for the notary.
Okay.
Notary puts the date.
Yeah.
I don't see anything for you.
Okay.
I ran the idea by one of the notaries that we had at convention, and she didn't seem to have a problem with it. As long as you don't sign it, wait to sign.
Yeah, I've known somebody in Illinois who's done that. Yeah. Any other questions? So you've got, my understanding is Jennifer and Carla, you are the stand-in candidates.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I guess that's not a problem. Well, we don't have to worry, shouldn't have to worry about electoral votes. Ultimately, there's a provision in the U.S. Constitution, but I don't think it would apply to stand-in candidates where if you can have a president and vice president candidate ticket from the same state, but they cannot win the electoral votes of that state in the U.S. Constitution. But I don't think that's going to be an issue here.
I think that actually came up in 2020 because both of them were from South Carolina. like the actual candidates.
Yes, they were both from South Carolina, and I don't know if one of them had a residence elsewhere, but you know,
I think Spike had said if they actually were to win South Carolina, then he would move between the election and when the electoral votes were cast.
there
so
you go. Yeah.
I've if you can do it for real, you should be able to do it for your fill-in candidates.
Well, so in any event, so anyway, any other questions or comments or anything?
I just figure I would tell everyone that's on this call about our petition situation.
Yes, please do.
So our elector for the 4th district, he moved a few weeks ago and realized Saturday morning that he does not live in the 4th district anymore. So we are going to be replacing him with another elector who lives in the 4th district. And we will need to change our petitions once we do that. So we're still going to use the current petitions for tomorrow. But as of Wednesday, we will be sending out new updated petitions with our new elector on it.
Right. And yeah, and those would be the petitions used starting Wednesday, March 6th for the rest of the drive. And that is per the counseling I received from a woman from at the Virginia Department of Elections today. That's what she said you should do. And then there will be an additional form when all the elector stuff is handed in. There will be an additional form that will sub out one elector for the new person in the 4th. All right. Anything else? Go get them. I mean, it's what can I say? It's it would be great if this could all be done on a volunteer basis. Just do the arithmetic. I mean, if you had 10 people do 500 valid or 50 people do 100 valid, this drive would be over. Assuming you hit the 200 per CD. But go out and do the best you can because and petitioning is so damn expensive these days. I mean, it is just the per sig rates being paid to paid petitioners these days. It just gone through the roof.
How much is it now? How much are they paying now?
7 to 10. Well, let me put it this way. I think Bob is doing it for less. Let me just put it this way. I talked with a paid petitioner who was here in Illinois in 2022 and said, what would it take to get you to come to Illinois this year? He said $7 to $10 a sig. That's what he said. Now I think Bob is doing it for less in Virginia, and he just did it for less in Ohio, and he's a loyal, blessed loyal LP person. So we are still paying in some circumstances, we are paying $5 a sig, but I know somebody who was in Arizona recently carrying for RFK Jr. Told me it was $8 a sig to him. And so and then initiatives. I mean, I had one petitioner tell me that when he goes to California to petition to circulate initiatives in California, while he's there, he says he grosses $6 to $7 grand a week petitioning in California.
Wow.
I've heard stories of petitioners in California grossing 10 grand a week petitioning in California.
Wow.
So I mean, I just got quotes from doing a paid drive in New York this year, which is now 45,000. I received 2 quotes. One was at least $1 million. And the other quote was a little over 800 grand to do the New York petition drive this year. Well, it ain't going to happen that way. It's a 6-week window. You're going to have RFK Jr. there. It's horrible. The ballot access laws in New York are absolutely horrible. And, but those were actual quotes to do the New York drive this year in a 6-week window from mid-April until the day after Memorial Day. And it's because of RFK Jr. out there, no labels. Apparently no labels. I believe this coming Friday, no labels is going to announce whether they're going to run a presidential ticket or not. I don't know if they said they would actually announce the ticket later, but who knows? But, there's a good chance they'll have a ticket, and they've got huge bucks behind them.
Does New York allow out-of-state people to petition?
Yes. They're for candidate petitions and party petitions. out-of-staters are allowed everywhere at this point. The only restrictions on residency are on initiative petitions and referendum petitions. But that's something, fortunately, we don't have to worry about anymore. I can't, what we used to go through, like back in 1988 or 92, when these laws were still in place, was just horrible. We can thank Richard Winger. He's probably more responsible than anyone else knocking down those barriers. Okay, anything else? Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I will kiss you on both cheeks and say bonne chance.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Okay, my pleasure.
Yep. Thank you very
Like
much.
petitioning or talking petitioning most anytime. All right, take care. Good to see you all.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.